Okay. All right, welcome to the presentation. Thanks for being on, everyone. And let's get started. I just saw this picture the other day of Jimmy Smith, and I've known Jimmy Smith for over 12 years now, coming up on 13. And he looks younger at 90 over here on the right than he did when I first met him. He's 80 over here, 90 over here. He just had his 90th birthday. And it just goes to show what, this new breakthrough that we have and what it's doing for us. It's really a new era that we're being, opened up into. And I'm going to go over the science behind this and what's causing, this to happen across the board with everybody. But I call it youthfully aging. So it's obvious. I mean, Jimmy Smith at 90, and he's still very active. He does presentations and he loves changing people's lives. And he's been involved with this company for almost the entire time. It's 16 years old. So about 15 years, I think Jimmy Smith has been in Isagenesis. I was at a place in my life where my health was, if you were to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is your health? I think everybody would agree it's a 10. And if I was to rank where I was actually at, I would have said in the minus, because I felt like I had died, but I was going on living. And I was praying for God to take my life. I just knew I would feel better when I go to heaven, that there would be no pain and tired and fatigue. And it was just bad for me. And just to make a long story short, all of that's turned around. And I literally feel like my health is better than I ever could have imagined it would have been, even when I was back and feeling, terrible. I truly believe that this is my purpose now. This is my destiny. I've really dedicated so much of my life and I get to do this and I can't turn it off. And because I'm sharing, this is based in principles. And so it just keeps helping more and more people to, ascend that ladder to better health. And so my mantra, instead of wanting to die and go to heaven, I'm like, well, we could literally have heaven on earth while we're here. So why don't we just commit to that and we'll bring heaven here to earth? And it's my belief that that's going to happen someday anyway. So we might as well start working towards it. And I truly feel like I have a vehicle that's helping us to do that. It really is bringing a piece of heaven into our lives when we apply these principles in our life. So I'm going to go through and talk about the principles because anybody, as soon as they discover a principle, they can start to live it and get in harmony with it if they're not. And if you're not in harmony with principle, then you have negative effects in your lives. And when we change our behavior and our understanding about that behavior and we get in harmony with the principle, it brings positive effects into our lives. And that's really what I'm all about. And that's, again, part of my purpose and my destiny. And so thank you for allowing me to share that with you today. And so let's jump into it. Now, before I get started, we're not going to make any claims around curing any illnesses or diseases. We're going to be talking about nutrition and supporting the body and then letting the body do with that it can. I believe that the body has an innate ability to heal itself. It's just that the FDA monitors to make sure nutritional companies say that as we put nutrition into our body and that we're, educating people on certain supplements and our bodies start to heal themselves, we can't make claims around curing those illnesses that the body may have had previously. And that's the law. So we will obey that law so that we don't get shut down and compromise the products or the company or ourselves. Now, this was me in 2005, and I was on my exercise and diet program, and I was a wrestler in high school, did really well, and I knew how to eat right. I knew how to exercise extreme, and I was doing it right here at 36 years old, and it just wasn't working. And these products got introduced to me into our lives. Me and my wife were looking for something, and she found it at an expo. But I was so skeptical that I said no to it, took the guy's card, threw it away. But she entered a drawing. My wife carried it, and it's never been the same since. I mean, in 25 days, I personally released 27 pounds. That was my personal results. And then I went on to release 53 pounds. My energy shot through the roof. I don't crave the junk foods anymore. It's been over 12 years. And it's just truly made my life a blessing. And where I feel like I now, have this piece of heaven here on earth. And I want that for everybody. Because I know people are suffering in a lot of different ways and very dramatically. And some people who think they feel good, but they put these products in their body and they feel so much better. So I've been dedicated to this now for over 12 years. And I think all the things that I went through in the past, and I think so many of you that are so dedicated to this, that you didn't feel good before and that these products made you feel incredible. And when you're grateful, you share. And then when you share with somebody and it impacts their lives, that's at the top of the list. There's not too many joys that make a person feel so good inside as to help another human being. And so we get to consistently do that as much as we want. And so, I've been very happy for these last almost 13 years now. Now, in 2009, a geneticist was introduced to our company, and he partnered up with our formulator, John Anderson, founder and formulator, and this product resulted. And adding this to the nutrition that we were already putting in our bodies, this is turning back the clock. I call it youthful aging. And this is 5 years of being on that product. And I'm in better shape now. I'll be 50 on June. And I feel better than I did when I was 16. I mean, literally, physically, mentally, my recovery, my stamina, my endurance. And I don't work out. I don't work out even as hard as I did when I was wrestling. I mean, 20, 25 minutes when I do work out. And I travel a lot. So it's not always convenient for me to be able to work out. So, but it's what I'm putting into my body and how I'm supporting the body to be amazing. I mean, you look at animals in nature, and they're eating things strictly from nature, and they don't work out, but some of them look pretty ripped, right? So what's going on here? Nutrition has pretty much everything to do with how we look, how we feel, and our health is our number one asset. And so I'm going to teach some principles on health and what you can do to change your behavior to literally have, an amazing life. Because when you feel amazing, it translates into an amazing life. So let's hold a magnifying glass over the science. I'm going to spend the majority of the time talking about this Isagenesis. It used to be called Product B, Isagenesis. Now it's just called Isagenesis. So if that Product B confuses some of the new associates on here, that's the reasoning behind that. Now, here's a human cell. In the middle of every cell is called the nucleus, and they contain our chromosomes. Our chromosomes contain our DNA, and the DNA is protected by the telomeres, which are being depicted in red right here. And so Bill Andrews, the geneticist who's been researching telomeres, and he came up with the phrase, I'm going to cure aging or die trying. He talks about a shoestring and says the plastic tip on the shoestring that holds the shoestring together at the tips, that's a lot what a telomere is like. So I went out and made a telomere rope with rope and red electrical tape. And he said when that plastic tip starts to wear away, it damages the DNA, which has been now the understanding is that it leads to every symptom of aging and every degenerative disease. So I'm not making claims around curing diseases here. I'm talking about the science and the research behind telomeres and the human anatomy. As this telomere gets shorter and shorter and shorter, you can see more and more damaged DNA. So look at the frayed part of the rope as the DNA that's in the chromosome. And think of DNA as the software that runs the physical cells. So as you're losing more and more DNA, the cells are not integritous, and they're not capable of running optimally because you're losing the information that runs the cell. Now, that's Nobel Prize winning research in 2009 in the category of physiology of medicine. So it's a really huge discovery because we now have found where the degeneration takes place that causes all these degenerative diseases. It's just going to depend on what part of the bodies and what part of the cells are going to be degenerating. That's going to probably, give you the label of the disease. So if it's in the lung area, it could be COPD, lung cancer, emphysema. If it's in your bones, it could be osteoporosis. So on and on it goes. If it's in your pancreas and your cells in your pancreas are degenerating like this, then it could be diabetes. So every single one of them, MS, Parkinson's, lupus, think about all the neurological diseases and also all of the muscular diseases and a nervous system. It's because of the damaging of the DNA in those cells. Now, Bill Andrews was featured in Popular Science as the man who would stop time because he identified in humans a gene that repairs this. It's called telomerase. It produces an enzyme called telomerase. And what telomerase can do is repair that damage that's taking place. Now, we're suppressing that. We've never really supported it on the level that it can be supported, but we're actually attacking it more than we ever have because of the processed food and all the chemicals. In fact, we've accelerated the aging and disease process. On the front page of USA Today, April 2012, it stated that pre-teenagers, their telomeres are 10 years shorter than they used to be. So they're going to have the aging and disease effects at younger and younger ages. And it's the first generation of children that won't live as long as their parents now. That's from the Surgeon General. Because if we get the telomere to this length right here where the cell shuts down and dies, you're going to die of a degenerative disease. So if children's telomeres are shortening faster, they're going to get here quicker, which is going to shorten the lifespan. So you now know quite a bit more just from what I just explained right there about aging and disease. A lot of doctors don't even remember what telomeres are from their biology classes. Okay, so Bill identified this gene that repairs in 1994. I was mentored by Bill, and we did a little video together here just so that I could show that he endorsed what I was having to say as I went around lecturing.
Dave MacArthur.
I'm Bill Andrews.
And I wanted to introduce this video to you. I've collaborated with Bill Andrews and been lecturing around the country about his research in Product B. And Bill Andrews actually discovered the human telomerase gene back in 1994. He was featured in Popular Science as the man who would stop time. So, Bill, what would you like to say?
Well, I've listened to Dave speak many times on Product B, and I endorse everything he has to say. So I invite you to come listen to Dave MacArthur speak about Product B.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
It was really fascinating learning from Bill, and I just felt like this is the foundation of our health. And I started putting this presentation together based on what I was learning. And Bill said it's one of the best presentations he's ever seen to make something so complicated easy to understand. And I'm right brain and left brain, so I really like the pictures, but I also like the science. So I think it strikes a good balance for people to be able to understand on both sides. Okay, so now just in review, as the chromosomes where the telomeres are on the ends, as they get shorter and shorter and are degenerating, it damages more and more DNA, which leads to more and more symptoms of aging. And the shorter that telomere gets, the more those symptoms of aging and disease are going to show up. Now, what the researchers knew is that the reproductive cells, they don't do this. They stay healthy and integritous year after year, decade after decade. So 40 years later, those cells are running as good as they did when you were conceived, while all the other cells are actually shortening and accelerating. Like, let's just use cigarette smoke as an example. Cigarette smoking shortens your telomeres faster, right? So if you compared my telomeres in my lung area to somebody who smokes, mine are going to be longer and the smokers is going to be shorter. Because they're shortening them at a rapid rate, they're going to end up with the COPD, lung cancer, and emphysema and things like that, where I wouldn't, because my lung cells are still healthy. And it's like that throughout the entire body, and everybody's going to be a little bit different, and just depending what we're exposed to. We know processed foods are contributing to accelerated telomere shortening, drinking alcohol, just different environmental chemicals and toxicity. Now, they knew that this was taking place in the reproductive cells because of microscopes. They could see that the length of the chromosomes are the same decades later. And they couldn't figure out how it was doing that, though. But Bill Andrews is the one who identified how telomerase is doing that on a molecular level. Now, another way for us to be able to know that that's taking place without ever looking under a microscope is just looking at children being born. They're always born younger than the parents. But if they inherited the cells that were degenerate from the parents from being alive for 20, 30, 40 years, my mom was 48 when she had my youngest sister. So when Melissa inherited the cells and the genes from my parents, I mean, theoretically, you should think, okay, she's going to be the same age as my parents, now that we know what causes aging, right? Because my parents had those cells for, over 48 years. But we never really thought about it on this level, that a younger baby comes out of an older person. Where are they getting their genes from? So this is really opening the eyes for a lot of people, even doctors, as I've shared this. And so Melissa, my youngest sister, didn't inherit the 48-year-old genes. She inherited genes that weren't aging. They actually call them immortal cells because they don't age, they don't disease, they don't die, because they're maintaining perfect health. So when Bill identified this, he invented the equipment and started working with human skin cells in a petri dish. And by 1997, he was able to activate this gene in human skin cells, and it started repairing the damage. And plants do that. I think all of us are familiar with almost killing a plant, and then we start watering it again, and it goes back to normal health, perfect health. They were monitoring that on a molecular level in plants. So he just got the human skin cells to do in the petri dish exactly what the plants do, that they could see. And then when the chromosomes got to their full length, when they divided and handed off the new chromosomes that were replicated, they were maintaining integrity now. So he had done it. he had got the cells to behave like they're supposed to optimally. He got Inventor of the Year runner-up for that. It was really a small group of researchers that were even doing this. There wasn't much publications at all around the world. They didn't really know what this meant. And it was just that next step. But what they realized is that the cells could reverse the damage on a DNA level, at least in a petri dish. Now, theoretically, if this guy could do that in all of his cells, see, he looks like this because his telomeres, his chromosomes are gotten short, and it says right here, decreasing telomere length. If you were to increase the telomere length and take it all the way back, then that guy would go back to his mid-20s. Even though he was 80 years old, he would look like he was in his mid-20s, which now I can understand how that's possible because the DNA and understanding what causes aging and disease and all of these different things. Now, where it really took on a lot of, I guess, media coverage was when Harvard did this with mice.
And now, eternal youth. Is it in a cage around the corner? News tonight of a breakthrough for some pioneering mice. But we always wonder, what does a fountain of youth for rodents reveal for humans? Here's Sharon Alfonsi reporting.
I feel tremendous.
In the Moody Cocoon, it's a swimming pool that turns back the clock for a group of senior citizens. But now researchers have found a way not just to stop, but reverse the aging process. The key is something called a telomere. We all have them. They're the tips or caps of your chromosomes, seen here in yellow. This is what it looks like in a young adult. But as you grow older, the telomeres become damaged and frayed, and as they stop working, we start aging, experiencing things like hearing and memory loss. Scientists took mice who were prematurely aged, added an enzyme, and essentially turned their telomeres back on. You can see it before the enzyme, after.
Their brain function improved, their fertility was restored. It was a remarkable reversal of the aging process.
Look at this picture. The mouse on the right has bad skin, gray hair, and is balding, but the one on the left had its telomeres flipped back on.
And you could see that essentially you now have a dark coat color, that the hair is restored, that the coat has a nice healthy sheen to it.
Even more dramatic, the change in brain size. This is before. The mice had 75% of a normal brain, like a patient with severe Alzheimer's. But after the telomeres were reactivated, the brain returns to normal size.
So this is where they really started to understand the possibilities for us as humans, because mice are mammals and so are we. And this is what caused the Nobel Prize to be awarded to this research, was the mice. Because it really did show the possibilities on a real level. They're not a petri dish. All right, so when they activated the gene in the mice and it produced this enzyme, what they saw happen to the DNA is that it repaired itself. Prior to that, they didn't know that was even a possibility. So here's something we're suppressing more and more in our society. The lifespan's getting shorter and shorter, and yet it's something that can be controlled by the choices and the options that we have. And that's why I really love educating this, because it can get people to change their behavior, which is going to change the results. And this is happening down in the nucleus of the cell, where that's the core foundation, right here, your telomeres. So more than a decade later, Bill, with up to 40 researchers in his lab, had tested over 304,000 compounds. They found 8, but all of them were too toxic to consume. So what you're looking at is a compound that's being tested here in the human skin cells. If it turns red, then it's growing the telomere back in the human skin cells in the petri dish. But out of everything they tried, natural, pharmaceutical, chemicals, they were all too toxic. They couldn't find anything natural. So this is where it gets exciting, at least for me and for those of you that are now involved, is that he got partnered up with John Anderson, who's the world's leader, and I would say the foremost leading expert when it comes to working with botanicals, and just his proprietary way and what he mastered when it comes to nutritional formulations. And Peter Greenlaw is being recognized for bringing these two together. And Peter's a friend of mine, and his life was changed by John's products. John's the nutritional formulator. He's the founder of Isagenesis, along with Jim and Kathy Coover. And John said, I would have formulated for telomeres had I known all of this about them. He said, I had heard of them, but I didn't understand the role that they played. Now that I know, this is the reason I was born. I've never been more excited. And John's formulated for over 600 companies during his career. And he got tired of the compromise that was happening with his formulations, and he retired. But after retiring, he realized, I'm not ready to retire. I can change people's lives. I can have them looking different and feeling different in 3 to 5 days. Every company I've ever formulated for always compromised the products, not one exception, so they can make bigger profits. And that was, a bad deal for the consumer, the customer. So he said, no compromise, highest quality. So now here he is in 2009 being introduced to Bill. And what Peter knew is that John didn't know about telomeres, and that Peter also knew that Bill didn't know about formulating with plants like John did. So here's what Bill says. The contract was written up. I was at this event, and John started sending formulations over to Bill's lab. And this is what Bill said in a documentary.
We'd seen for natural products, and we were pretty excited. It was the 11th compound we tested out of the first 15 samples that John Anderson sent us, and it was a hit. So we use the term hit in science a lot. So when we screen a lot of samples, we'll screen like thousands of samples at a time. But, I have to confess, at first we thought, wow, was he extremely lucky? Because we thought, how could he only be asking us to screen 15 samples? After screening thousands without a hit, we need a lot more samples than 15 if we're expecting to get a hit. We got a hit. So he sends us another 15, and we get another hit.
Okay, so Bill at this point called John Anderson a genius, said he's the most knowledgeable man we've ever worked with when it comes to working with natural ingredients. And so what happened is John sent 15 formulations over to Bill, where they tested them in the skin cells in his lab. And the first 15, they got a hit right here. So that's from a natural ingredient right here. And he just says, wow, he's extremely lucky. I mean, what are the odds? But then he sends 15 more and gets another hit. In 120 compounds, he gets those 7 right there. And Bill was excited. He said, this is the most exciting time of my life. John Anderson's the most knowledgeable man we've ever worked with when it comes to working with natural ingredients. And this will change the landscape of human health as we know it. And he also said it moved his lab forward 10 to 12 years where they thought they would be. And he wanted to know how John is getting these natural ingredients to do that. And John said, that's going to remain proprietary. We're going to be committed to the quality. We're going to keep the price where everybody can, afford to get on this product and utilize the benefits that they'll get from it. And that we're going to continue to improve it. And so John kept sending formulations over to Bill's lab, and they ended up having a second generation. On a third generation, I got a call from Bill, and he said, get a little group together in Vegas. I'm going to come and talk to you guys. John did something that I said would be impossible to do. Let's see if I can get rid of that thing. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's in my way. Bill said it would be, I told him it'd be impossible to do from a natural botanical. And that is, he found 2 hits that went off the charts. And now we've even surpassed those, you guys. There's over 25 different hits in what we're taking right now. And this lid just pops right up. You can pop it right up with your thumbnail. And it's all natural. It's a vegan gel cap. There's 120 of them in a bottle. And you do 2 in the morning, 2 at night. So 1 bottle is a month's supply. And again, it's all natural. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say here. Bill said you can go to the vitamin store and take all of the ingredients that are listed on the back, and you would never get this because there's too many things that would negate that. And the way that John is symbiotically formulating the ingredients together through natural processes, that's John's proprietary way of formulating. And then also being able to identify what is in a plant and being able to utilize it, and then symbiotically putting those together with other phytonutrients from other plants. And that's what he learned over his career. So John didn't have to learn how to formulate for telomeres. So Peter Greenlaw totally nailed it. He just felt like John could possibly do something. He didn't know. He just, from what he understood about John Anderson, is that it's highly likely that he could. And he nailed it. John totally did it. And so think about this. In over a decade and 40 researchers being committed to nothing but this. This is the only thing they do in Bill's lab. It's the only lab in the world like that. And John comes along and in months does what these 40 researchers couldn't do in over a decade. John is a genius, and he's the formulator behind the product. But without Bill vetting the ingredients, we wouldn't know. And without Bill's lifelong research. So it really is a collaboration that has brought this together. And I'm excited to be able to share it with the world and pioneer this new technology and where we're at today. So let's go through some of the Observationals. Bill and his wife Molly are ultra marathon runners. They run very long distances. And this race, Molly tried it 2 years earlier and didn't get to the finish line, but she got on the product and then she ran this race, and she's the first female and the 7th person to reach the finish line. It's 138 miles long in the Himalayas. It goes from 13,000 feet to 18,000 feet, back down to 14, then back up to 18, and then back down. And only 6 people had ever done it prior to Molly doing it. And she's the first female and 7th person. And she has the name of the product right on the back. Product B, telomere support. Bill did it the following year, being on the product for over a year. He's the oldest to do it now at 60 years old. And he did it in just over 50 hours. He said, I'm breaking records I set when I was 40. One of them I beat by 50 minutes. I experienced the same thing. And now we're seeing that. That's a pretty common thing, is endurance, recovery, stamina, those types of things go along with what the product's doing for the telomeres, supporting them. I picked up motocross. I had forgotten about motocross. I hadn't ridden a dirt bike for over 25 years. And I started feeling like I was 16 again. So when you feel like you're 16, you do what you do when you were 16. And I had never been to a motocross track. I always wanted to, but my mom just didn't allow it. And so I never got to race. But I always wanted to. I was pretty natural on a motorcycle. So I bought a dirt bike, went to the motocross track, and started to learn how to ride on a motocross track. And it was fun. I was crashing all over the place. But again, it was a blast. It's a total bucket list. Something I would have never done had it not been for Isagenesis and turning back the clock in my cells. And I took a 3rd place in my first race, and I was beating teenagers. I was even staying on the track longer than teenagers consistently. And I'd go day after day. I'd go in the middle of the week when nobody was out there. And, at 46 years old, I pick up motocross. I mean, come on, that's one of the world's most physically demanding sports. A lot of people don't know that. Some people argue that it is the most physically demanding. And so I was just observing while I was out there as well, because I knew it was the product. And I just saw that I was doing better than teenagers physically. And then I took a 3rd place, and then a 2nd place, and then I had a motocross accident, which, happens all the time. But I shattered this leg. And it's one of the worst fractures you can have. It's called a pilon fracture. It shattered it like glass. And the doctor that was there said, I can't fix that. This is going to take a surgery. And the doctor that does that is going around the country fixing them on other people. So the doctor that was there bolted this to my bones. It's going all the way through my heel, top of my foot, and into my bone right there with those big screws. And that way the pieces wouldn't shift around. I was in bed for days before the doctor came and did the surgery. And he said those pieces would totally move around and make the surgery a lot more difficult if we didn't bolt this so that you couldn't move. And I was in bed for 6 weeks. I was in the wheelchair for 2 weeks, and then I was on these for 2 weeks. So a total of 10 weeks that I was off my feet. As I was going back to the doctor, we had a conversation, and he said, look, it could be up to a year before you stand on this and you'll never run again. I ran in 3 months, you guys. 3 months from the surgery. It was unbelievable. Unprecedented stuff that I had seen happening for other people that were having surgery, people that had trauma, even dogs that had trauma and their bones were messed up were resolving the issues. It's just, it's a great testament to the product. And I didn't even have any muscle atrophy. I'd been off of my feet for 10 weeks. I'd only been on them for 2 weeks right here. And there was no pain. It was still healing. I talk about it. This has over 11,000 views on Facebook. It's on YouTube now on my YouTube channel. If you want to share that with somebody who's had trauma, it's gotten a lot of people on the products as I share what I did. And then I ran these stadiums. So there's that for me. So many other results that I noticed as well, and that I appreciate so much for me and my wife and our entire family, actually. This is Kathy, and Emily's sharing Kathy's before and after pictures, and her friends don't believe that that's her. So she's eliciting help on Facebook, and people were tagging Kathy to this post. And Kathy comes on and says, yes, these pictures are in fact of me. This one on the right is me at Fitness America in Las Vegas at 69 years old. I just turned 70 in May. And she says, I really do feel like I've been aging backwards. What else could I possibly give the credit to? Thank you, John Anderson and Bill Andrews. And here she is at 70. I had a 92-year-old come up to me in Bend, Oregon before I started the meeting. She said, can I share my story with you before you get started? And I said, yeah, absolutely. She said, well, I was in a caregiver facility. I couldn't even take care of myself. I've been on your product for 4 months. I got out of the caregiver facility 2 months ago, and I got my driver's license back 2 weeks ago. So these are the kinds of stories that I get to hear as I go back to places and as people get on the product. And just, it's amazing, being able to help people on this level. When you can make an impact in somebody else's life on this level, like I said, that's at the top of the list. And I'll never stop doing it. And, the company's generous enough that I make more money than I could have ever dreamed of. I've made over $9 million now in this company. But it's something that gives me such great joy and actually is my destiny. So take the money part out of it, and I still have great joy, and I'm fulfilling the purpose that I believe I was born for. So it's just a win-win-win all the way around. It's a win-win-win-win-win. It just keeps winning. This is Dick, and Amy came to a meeting that I did at a dentist office in Wisconsin. And Dick's 82 years old right here. And Amy said, he was starting to slip and his memory and things like that. And that some people were suggesting maybe he ought to go into a nursing center where they're, trained to take care of people like that. And they weren't going to do that. But she was so grateful to hear this information. And I work with Amy quite a bit. And I was out there with Amy in Minnesota about a month ago. And anyways, this is him at 82. Here he is at 83. Here he is at 85. And here he is at 87. And I saw Dick when I was out there in Minnesota. He's doing amazing and driving himself around and working out. He's actually bodybuilding now, and at 87 years old, you guys. John and Kathy Rhodes actually found me and called me, and were really in dire need of some improving their health, and it did that for them, and they had amazing results. And they've been sharing it like crazy with as many people as they can, and Joseph's one of them. I did a meeting in Sedona, Arizona at a doctor's office, and 3 women brought Joseph. He had lost his license. He couldn't read the E at the top of the eye chart from 10 feet away. So, he lost his license. He was living in this bus in Sedona, Arizona. And he said, Dave, to walk from the back to the front, I'd have to sit down halfway. It fatigued me. He said, I knew I was dying and I couldn't even go upstairs on my own. And that was at 83 years old. He moved to Sandpoint, Idaho. He bought an RV and drove it around for 4 straight months before going back home, sharing his testimony with his friends and his team that he's been building. He's actually 87 now, and Joseph's doing amazing. I hear him on the calls all the time. This is in Sandpoint, Idaho, here at the Holiday Inn where we did the meetings. This is Minnie. This is Liddy's mother. A lot of you know Liddy Flom, and she's laying flat, and this is her back. Her back was so hunched over, it forced her chin into her chest, and I met Minnie when she was like this. She had been on the product for about a week here, and then I flew out to Minnesota and got to meet them, and this is her 5 months later. She's 80 right here, and she's 83 right here. Look at her chin. It's up off of her chest. It was always like this. And now it's not. And she could stand straight up and down and didn't need her walker anymore. And her and her husband have had amazing results. And John's 90. He drove around. When I went to Minnesota about a month ago, we drove about 600 miles. And he sat shotgun with me the whole time. He's 90. He doesn't look like it. He says, yeah, people are always pointing at me and saying, he's 90. He's 90. He ice skates. He jogs. This is Tim. And Tim is in Reno. And I was just with Tim, I think it was last week I was in Reno. They were going to put the rods in his back and attach them to his spine and then crank him straight in his teenage years. I think he said 17 this last time I was there. And he's standing straight up and down now. He was bad shape when I first met him. He's put on about 2 inches, and he's back to normalcy. And this day he actually hung drywall overhead by himself before the meeting. And he said he was carrying a bucket around and just kind of carrying it on his hip and scooting around. And he's doing awesome, and they've really been blessed by Isagenesis in so many ways. This is Doyle, and this is the last time I was in Reno. So I think this was last week, or not in Reno. This is in Coarse Gold, California. I start out in Fresno and Coarse Gold on Monday, and then by Thursday I end up in Reno. And Doyle was at the meeting 3 weeks earlier, and I literally thought Doyle was going to die while I was there at the meeting. He has an incurable cancer, a blood cancer that they don't even really have a name for it. And I literally thought he was going to die. And when he came this week, I didn't even recognize him. And as I was talking, I'm like, oh, wait a second. You're the guy that was here 3 weeks ago. It totally floored me. His skin looked better. He actually put on 15 pounds of muscle in 3 weeks. He was a bodybuilder when he was younger. And look at him. You can see he's got his posture back, and he was having a hard time breathing when I was there 3 weeks ago. And he is so excited. He just wants to share this with the world. And having phenomenal results. He says, I truly believe that I'm still alive today because of Isagenesis. This is Bob Sheridan, and I did 2 meetings in his home. He's a very cool guy. He's known as the Colonel in the boxing community. He's in the Boxing Hall of Fame. And the hospital sent him home right here because his heart was too weak to do anything for it. They couldn't even put a pacemaker in it. This is 6 months later. And this is sitting at home in his recliner at 72 years old. He bought a sports car, got a ticket going 120 miles an hour. I love that part of the story. I mean, he has so many results. This is an interview that was on Fight News. They're like, Bob, we thought we were going to lose you. What in the world happened? You know, and talks about his wife putting him on this product and how it's helped him on a cellular level. And he's 77 years old now, and they just interviewed him. He's still calling matches. He's traveling all over the world doing the galas. And he said, I feel like I can go on announcing for another 20 years. So another success story. And then I think this last one here, Karen, Malcolm shared this with Karen. I was doing a meeting on a Thursday night before our company event, and Malcolm came into town and invited Karen. Hadn't talked to her for 9 years. She had been homebound for 3 years, and Malcolm didn't even know that. And she did come to the meeting, but she came knowing that she was going to have a picture with Malcolm and that it would probably be the last time he ever saw her because she was supposed to die by October, November. And she got on the product that night. Somebody had some product there that she bought some pills from. She said, I'm going to order it, but I want to get started on it tonight. And this is her 2 days later. This is her 3 days later. She could not believe the turnaround in her results. She came to our company event. She didn't even know on Thursday that we were having a company event. And she was so excited on Saturday that she came. And she got on these other products. Anytime you add another product in Isagenesis, it just facilitates something more in the human body. And this is her 1 month later and 2 months later. This is her on Facebook a couple months ago now. And the funeral home called in December. Remember, she was supposed to die in October, November, and she already had the paperwork turned in to the funeral home. And they called and said, where's Karen's body? We were expecting it by now. Did she go to a different funeral home? And they said, oh, no, she decided to live. And she's having an amazing time. She's shared it with a lot of people. She's back to riding horses. And a guy named Tom Love, who she shared it with, who couldn't even hold a job. He delivered Agent Orange in the Vietnam War, and he was a mess. And she called me in 3.5 weeks. He went hunting. And he's back to riding horses and just doing amazing now. So the body is the miracle here. We're not making any claims around curing any illnesses or diseases. It's that the body's resilient. And when you can give your body something, change the principle of what you're giving your body, then there's going to be a result that happens from that behavior. And so, there's the science of aging. If you don't get on this product, it's going to cost you more. You can't afford to not get on this product because this is an asset and everything else is a liability. Nothing's supported telomeres on this level like this is. This is the first. It's been so fun being able to pioneer this, the information on the anatomy and what's happened, with the nutritional side of supporting telomeres, and then let the body do its work. But everything else out there, even a healthy lifestyle, you're still shortening your telomeres, and that leads to more and more problems, which is going to cost. It's a liability. Liabilities always cost you in ways that you don't want to spend the money. It's always like a liability would be like comparable to your car breaking down. Nobody wants to pay for the expense of a car breaking down, but you have to, if you want to continue to get around. And so this is inevitable. But if you can support the body on this level, which you can, then, that's an asset. And assets always produce more. So, would you rather produce more in your life, or would you rather pay in ways that you don't want to? And eventually it has to, principally based. That's the bigger principle. That's the bigger picture of what's going on here. I mean, look at Robin Dunda. Here she is without the product, and here she is with it. Liability, asset. I mean, look at the difference in what's being produced in her life and all the richness that is now in her life, where the liabilities were costing her. What was it costing her in her life here? And she's so thankful for it. She calls it her secret weapon. It's been working on me from the inside out. This is CV and Robin. And when I go out to Missouri, I stay with CV and Dave. And CV said they made her pull her license out. They didn't believe that she was approaching 50 years old. They wouldn't believe it until she pulled her license out. So fun stuff, right? But it's more than just fun. It's more than information. This is very dramatic. I take it very seriously. And I hope that you'll take this information serious too, because you're now the lead to somebody else that doesn't know about it. And, you can really make a huge impact in somebody else's life. And when you do, again, that's at the top of the list. I want to finish up with a couple other things that Isagenesis addresses, and what they addressed for me back in 2005 when I was praying for God to take my life because I was so out of balance. I was fatigued all the time. I just couldn't see myself going on living like that. I was in survival mode. I was suffering every day in spite of my best efforts. Well, I didn't know this stuff, and I thought, well, I'm going to put together a presentation to help people understand what's going on out there. And again, it's all principle based. You just have to understand the principles and where they're being broken and when they're being in harmony, or when you're being in harmony with those principles or not. So in 1953, this is a UCLA study. 1 bowl of spinach used to give you enough iron. Iron's an important mineral. It's essential. You have to have it. You have to have 60 different minerals going into your body at every meal being absorbed. So iron is a good source of, or spinach is a good source of iron, at least it used to be, because in 2007, it takes 51 bowls of spinach to give you the same amount of iron that used to be in 1 bowl. It's the decline of minerals in our soil as a result of spraying pesticides and killing the soil. So as we grow, we're pulling the minerals out of the ground, but they're not being replenished because we sterilize the soil and kill the bacteria in it that break down the rocks and turn them into water-soluble minerals. So then the result is disease. There's study after study. Senate Document 264 says nobody can eat enough fruits, vegetables, and grains to supply their body with the minerals it requires. And on top of that, we're being bombarded. The air used to be clean, the water and the food, and the poison was in its own little container. But now the poison's in the air, it's in the water, and it's in the food. And our bodies need to combat these things. But if we're not fueling our bodies, this isn't just iron, this is all of the minerals. And look at this. This is the most toxic fruits and vegetables every year. That just Google the dirty dozen and put in fruits and vegetables, and it'll tell you what the most toxic are for that year. Celery's always near the top because it just sucks it into it. It's high. It's mostly water, and so these toxins are inside these fruits and vegetables. They're not on the outside where you can wash them off. I mean, have you been eating lettuce lately, or apples, or strawberries, spinach, sweet bell peppers, potatoes? And people think that organic means they can't spray pesticides. That's not true. USDA certified, which is the most strict form of organic labeling, they can spray pesticides on them still, just not as long. And it doesn't mean they have the minerals in them when they're organic. Yeah, you're going to do better when you buy organic, but it still falls short. So what do? Well, we're not doing enough. Look around. We're in a health crisis. 1 in 2 people will get cancer now for both men and women. The obesity, it says 1 in 2 by 2030. Cancer passed up heart disease, and that's not gotten any better. The lifespan's going backwards. Children are being born with type 2 diabetes and having osteoporosis before they're teenagers. I mean, come on, look at it. I mean, we need to wake up. Wake up, right? There's over 500 chemicals in drinking water in our homes across the country. They found up to 800, but never less than 500. So, and on top of that, we're just shoveling stuff into our bodies. We're killing ourselves with a knife and fork and a spoon, because you eat cereal with a spoon, right? It just makes the body super acidic, which is a catch-22 because it makes you crave acidic things. Acidic bodies crave acidic foods, or sick bodies crave sick food. We want all of this stuff, that's processed and chemicals. Doritos have 38 chemicals that make up that cheese fuzz on the Doritos chips that gets on your finger. 38 chemicals. Refined white flour doesn't even have the minerals in it anymore, so it's acidic. It's not good for you. The whiter the bread, the sooner you're dead. Just remember that. If you got to eat bread, then buy sprouted wheat bread, something like the Ezekiel bread. And you'll notice it tastes different. A lot of people say, well, I don't like how that tastes. Well, because it's healthy for you and you have a sick body. Get your body alkaline and you'll crave it. Bodies that are acidosis, where they're below 7, that's a sick body. And the result is going to be liability after liability, which is going to cost you. Not just money-wise, but yeah, totally money-wise, but not just money-wise. We're talking quality of life, enjoyment of life. So thank you, John Anderson, for creating a food source. I live on this. I totally live on this. And when I was in bed with my motocross accident for 6 weeks, all I had was the shakes. I didn't eat anything from the store. I looked better when I got out of bed than before I had the accident. And incredible flavors. Mint chocolate is really good. It's really becoming one of my favorites. There's chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. They had a seasonal flavor that just came out. It was pina colada. Cookies and cream is Carter's favorite. He said it tastes better than the Dairy Queen cookies and cream. So there you have it, but it makes your body alkaline. All of the minerals, yeah, they're in here. You have to have 90 essential nutrients going into your body at every meal. This has over 240, and it's enzyme active. It's literally a live food. The ingredients are kept in their raw form, but that's John Anderson's formulating ability and getting absorbed with freeze-dried digestive enzymes. John's the only formulator that knows how to do that. And so it's a living food. And vegans love it. Vegetarians love it. We have, and it's dairy-based, but some vegans, just because of the cruelty to animals, won't do dairy-based proteins. But we get it from the cattle in New Zealand, which they're treated better than humans over here in the US. They can't eat foods that have been sprayed with pesticides. They can't be injected with hormones to make them lactate. They have to be out roaming and eating the grass. And they're very happy cows. They produce the highest amino acid profile. And I've seen people who with very strict diets do them. They're just floored. They can't believe how much it's changed their health and their energy and their muscle. In our clinical studies, which I'll show in just a minute, it puts on muscle without even working out. So over 240 nutrients, enzyme active, it gets you up to here. How do I know? Because I test my pH. I'm high 7s because of this shake. And it's been a godsend for me. It's, I released 53 pounds and I've kept it off now for over 12 years. I have incredible energy. And because my body's alkaline, I don't crave the foods I used to crave when I was acidic. Doesn't mean I can't eat them. But why would you crave something, or why would you eat something you don't crave? Every once in a while I'll crave ice cream, so I'll have some, and it tastes good, from about my mouth to the bottom of my neck, and then all of a sudden my body's like, what did you just do to me? And I'm like, well, you craved me, so I put it in, So I can go 3 or 4 months without ice cream. I haven't had soda and coffee in over 12 years. I just I don't want it, and I don't crave it at all. That's something that I've never craved since putting this in my body. Okay, so the reason we release weight so quickly is not because of that shake. That's not a diet shake. Yeah, the shake is a better form of food in that it's low calorie and a lot of nutrition, where it's the exact opposite in our country. We have a lot of food, but no nutrition. In Isagenesis, the food calorie is much smaller, 250 calories per meal, but it has all the nutrients and more. There's no way you could put a plate of food that would equal the nutrition in one shake. It's just there's too many nutrients that are from so many different sources. But that's not why we lose the weight as effectively as we do and keep it off. It's because of the cleansing. John Anderson created a full body nutritional cellular cleanse to support the organs to chelate out the chemicals that are getting in our bodies. And there's no way to escape them. I don't care how non-chemical you are in your house and your foods, and even if you're drinking all your water out of glass, it doesn't matter. You're avoiding the plastics. You're still getting them in your body. There's no way to avoid them. Fire retardant in our mattresses and in our cars. And the worst place to get fire retardant chemicals in your body is on an airplane. So these chemicals, as they build up, our body puts them in our fat cells. So just think of this circle as a fat cell, and it's holding these toxins in there. And that's what Newsweek magazine, they caught up with us. And about 3 years later, they said science has now shown that your body stores these toxins in your fat cells. So when we diet, we shrink our fat cells. You don't get rid of fat cells, you just shrink them or blow them up. And so when we shrink them through dieting, the toxins are now released. So they get picked up by the cardio vessels and start circulating around the body, and your body knows that. It knows what's going on inside, and it's going to try and protect you from that. So it kicks a mechanism into play that says, liver, produce more fat. If you're pretty strict on your diet and exercise program, you may not lose any more weight here, but you'll hit a plateau, right? You may not gain your weight back that you lost when you're in this mode. You won't lose any more weight when you're in this mode, but you're being strict and you're dieting and exercising still. You won't lose any more weight. That's where I was after only losing 6 pounds, because I was so toxic from being a mechanic for 15 years that losing 6 pounds was enough toxins to put me in this mode. And even though I was still obese and I was exercising and working out like I wasn't losing any more weight. So that's the plateau that so many people are familiar with. Eventually you get tired of that and you eat the Snickers bar. That gives your liver more calories to produce more fat, and you blow the fat cells back up and the toxins are put back in the fat cells. So that's just the body trying to protect you. A lot of people think, well, I'm undisciplined, or I'm not good enough to lose weight, or this is just getting older, whatever rationalization we come up with. None of it's true. What's true is this. And I just realized people need to know this, because I was in that mode while I was riding my bike 100 miles every 5 days, eating tuna out of a can and salad with lemon squeezed over it, and running stadiums. And I couldn't lose any more weight after losing 6 pounds. So I put this in my body, which has over 100 active ingredients to support these organs. You're filtering organs with the nutrition they need to do their job. And it's above and beyond just the normal nutrition. John Anderson learned what other cultures are doing, and those ingredients aren't available in our foods. So he formulated them in a supplement. There's over 100 active ingredients. On a cleanse day, you'll do half a bottle. It's 4 ounces, 4 times. So this 32-ounce bottle, this would do 2 days of cleansing. So, and it tastes great. And it's not fasting, but it's kind of like a fasting, because you don't eat food or, drink shakes on your cleansing day, but you're putting a lot of nutrition in your body. For me, my personal experience, because of where I was at, my body wanted to release the weight. It was just the toxins. I cleansed, and in 2 days, my personal results, I lost 12 pounds. I released 12 pounds because I haven't found it. I released 12 pounds in 2 days. It freaked me out, but I felt amazing. I couldn't believe it. And I thought the scale was broke. I went on to release 27 pounds in 25 days with no exercise, and then 53 pounds in 8 weeks. So that's my personal results. It's always going to vary from person to person, depending on your commitment to it. And I did 2 back-to-back cleanse days in a row. That's the most you can do. There's a lot of different ways to cleanse. You can take a little bit every night, take a little bit every morning, take some in the afternoon, do a full cleanse day, do a half cleanse day, do a 48-hour cleanse, but no more than 48 hours, because then you'll start to atrophy your muscle. So I love the Cleanse for Life. I think it's what got rid of some of the things that were causing me to have the fatigue that I had, and what a blessing in my life that's been. So you can just look at the people that we have the healthiest people in our company. That didn't used to be the healthiest people. I mean, look at Nancy, almost 70 years old with oxygen. Here's one of her more recent pictures. She's almost 70 years old in these pictures. This gal released over 120 pounds in less than a year. No hanging skin. Look how happy she is. Look at it for her 90 days. That's her personal results. Yeah, there's a body transformation, but look at the brain chemistry. Going from survival mode to just totally thriving. This is a principle of health. When you follow and obey the principles that produce health and a thriving, energetic, enthusiastic personality, there's reasons for that. There's science behind it, and John Anderson's nailed it. He said no company's ever let him formulate products like this. He tried, but they would just compromise him. I mean, look at that. After her 3rd child, she couldn't lose the weight. She became a millionaire in our company. They just announced the 261st millionaire today. Me and my wife were the 69th. Now, this guy did the same program, but he gained weight. His name's Everett, 82 years old. This was early on when I first got in, and he put on 14 pounds of muscle in 30 days. This kid, same thing. He couldn't put on weight no matter what he ate, and because of the shake and the protein and how absorbable it is, he put on 15 pounds of muscle. But through the cleansing and releasing the toxic fat, he was able to lose 5% body fat. So that's toxic fat right there. It's being harbored in the fat cells. It's protecting the organs right in this area especially. It also, your body will also put the toxins out into the outer extremities, the joints, your elbows, your hands, and your knuckles, and your wrist, and in your shoulder. And that's why people get a lot of pain in those areas as well, your knee joints and your hips, because that's not an organ, and so it just kind of coagulates in those areas. Jill Birth released 136 pounds in less than a year. No hanging skin. She's a good friend. Jeff Beebe, he's coming up on, he's almost 60 years old now. This is Heather in People magazine as a health coach. And then Kenya, she released 439 pounds. This is in People magazine from January, Isagenesis. They have another gal in this magazine. I need to get the picture in here. I keep saying that. She released over 200 pounds in this same magazine. Our clinical studies, Dr. Paul Arciero, he says, I just can't believe it. Had I not done these studies, I thought they would have been a lie. There's just no way. These numbers are too far out of the norm. We don't see this. This was a 6-month study against the heart healthy diet, no exercise. We lost 4 times more fat, put on muscle 4 times more. That's unfathomable. 4 times more muscle. I mean, you think, okay, I put on 10% more muscle, or 2 times as much. That would be huge. No, this is quadrupled the muscle. 2 times increased metabolism and 3 times more toxins released through the urination process. Our cleanse is not a colon cleanse. Although it cleanses the colon, it's not a colon cleanse. It works through the urination process, and that's where these toxins were released in this study. He said there's only 2 machines on the planet that do that, and he has one of them. He says that as if these numbers weren't odd enough, like I wouldn't have believed it had I not done it, this is even crazier. The visceral fat that was lost, 33% visceral fat decrease with no exercise. You can see before around the organs. This is an MRI cutaway looking down, and look at the fat that's gone. He said you don't even lose that with exercise. This is impossible. He said he literally transformed people's lives that were in this study. Never seen anything like it. And it's ended up in peer-reviewed medical journals like Nutrients and PubMed. It made Dr. Paul Arcerio very famous. There's other researchers that are citing his study now. There's my family, our Isa family. London saw her mom drinking a shake that morning, our daughter Mackenzie, and she'll do 2 shakes a day. Whoops, let me go back here. And so here's a little video. She loves the shakes. They do 2 shakes a day. Cosette, drinking it out of the bottle here. Here she is at almost 3. This child right here in the high chair, thoroughly enjoying.
Is that a good shake?
And this is Keegan here. Nobody was making him a shake, so Liddy said, I just started videoing him. He pushed a chair over to the counter, grabbed the canister, started eating the powder. I mean, it's awesome. It tastes great when your body's alkaline. Cosette, our granddaughter here, Curtis said, yeah, we gave her some candy and she spit it out. Said it tastes like, she said caca. And that's because her body's alkaline. Candy's acidic. My son making it before school, my daughter in her dorm, college, she's a dancer, Ariel in Hollywood. So, okay. So that's where my life was before, when everything was a liability that was going into my body. And I was eating the healthy, I thought they were healthy foods, the produce. Food Matters says you can't get what you need for your body anymore through your produce. You have to supplement. But so many supplements are compromised out there. John Anderson's, and I was a supplement junkie. I'd bring protein shakes home, and Carrie thought they were disgusting. She would never drink them. And they were pretty disgusting compared to how ours taste. Ours are amazing. I look forward to them. And the supplements out there are just compromised. And it's just unfortunate. But through education, we can help people, and Isagenesis is leading the way. And so, this is where I was at when your health is your number one asset. So if it's not being an asset for you, this is what life feels like. And I was just struggling all the way around. And I got my health back, and I wasn't struggling anymore. Life became bliss for me. Even as a mechanic, before doing this full time, I was happy as a mechanic. But what happened is people started seeing my results, and so I got the products for them. And then their friends started calling me because of the results they were getting. And I really loved changing people's lives, compared to changing their oil. I didn't hate changing oil. I liked being a mechanic, and I felt much better. At this point with the nutrition, I started waking up before the alarm clock went off, and looked forward to the day. But I really enjoyed making an impact in other people's lives with their health, and it just hasn't stopped. I haven't got tired of doing it. It's been over 12 years now. And so it's $29 to get started, and that gives you a wholesale account, kind of like Costco. You get a Costco membership, and you get to start purchasing products from Costco, and everybody gets them at the same price. So if I went into my website right now and bought products, even though I do this full time, anybody can do it full time, or anybody can do it part time, or anybody can do it when it's convenient, or you don't have to share it at all. But I decided I'm going to start sharing, and I got people their own accounts. And what happened is that was the opportunity. Just getting people their own accounts. I didn't have to sell any product. I've never had inventory. The only inventory I have is for me and my family. And sometimes people will ask me, do you have some of this that I can get from you? I just want to, I just want to get it right now. And I'm like, oh, you're dipping into my family stash, man. It always like, it just hits a nerve, right? It's like, just order your own. This is mine, you know? And, what they taught me when I said, I want to take advantage of this opportunity, I didn't know I had already met the qualified order. The company made the qualified order that customers hit this qualified order, which is 100 in business volume. 2 bottles of Isagenesis is more than 100 BV. Doing 1 bottle of Isagenesis and a shake for breakfast every day, that's more than 100 BV. So the average customer is already eligible to take advantage of the opportunity. The opportunity is the opportunity to impact other people's lives and give them access to their own uncompromised, unparalleled nutrition and get it at the same price you get it for. So that's really the opportunity, is make an impact in other people's lives. And the more people you do that for, the more Isagenesis is going to pay you, because that's their form of advertising. But the cool part is there's no risk, because you don't have to have inventory. And so it's your own personal products that you're going to use. So if you enroll 2 people who use their own products every month, that makes you a consultant, which the company says, we'll pay you 6% on total volume, on unlimited depth, everybody that comes into your group, no matter who brings them in. So if we take, let's say, we'll call her Cindy. Cindy's somebody in my group that is a home health nurse for 28 years. When she got enrolled by the Rhodes, I started getting paid 6%, because John and Kathy Rhodes are in my group. So if John and Kathy Rhodes are in my group and they just enrolled Cindy, Cindy's now in my group, and I'm going to get paid 6% on her gross BV. And she enrolled 2 people, got to consultant, and now she's getting paid, but I'm getting paid on these people. Cindy's thousands of people down in my organization. I'm almost at 300,000 people. And Cindy in a year's time enrolled 25 people, but she had 950 in her group. So she's getting paid 6% on all 950, and so am I. Malcolm just hit 2-star yesterday, and she enrolled Malcolm in her downline, and Malcolm hit 2-star, and doing this full time now, and that's an incredible amount of money in just 14 months that Malcolm's been doing this, and that blesses Cindy, because Malcolm's in Cindy's downline. And so it's a real incredible way to make an impact in the world, and also impact our own lives and move our lives forward, progress. The more money we make, the brighter and brighter tomorrow gets, because money gives you options. And when you can have more options because you're helping more people, I don't see anything wrong with those principles. That's principle based. You're adding value to people's lives, and that's God's law. If you add more value to people's lives through offering them a product or service, then that's called the law of compensation. And there isn't anything wrong with that. It's a principle. You're actually in harmony with God's laws. And some people do that in their jobs, but their jobs are limited because they're not paying them on other people's efforts. And so that's the blessing of Isagenesis. It's unlimited potential. Me and my wife, our personal results are, when it comes to commissions, we've earned over $9 million. We make $1 million a year. And that gives us a lot of options in our lives. And I'm not tired of helping people. I don't have to ever work for money, ever again, because I'm going to keep getting paid residual income. And my group is growing at a phenomenal rate. It could be anywhere from 500 to 800 people every week. But that's the ripple effect that we're creating in the world. We always say, well, the world needs to be a better place. Well, I'm not complaining. I'm helping to make the world a better place. I was just talking about doing it. I'm doing it. And the money is a true representative of that, because that means more people's lives are being impacted with better health. And so I don't see any finish line for this. I don't ever plan on retiring. I think retiring is retiring was something that was made up by a politician. If you know the history behind that, we should never retire. We should stay active. We should stay engaged while we're alive. And this allows us to do that on an unprecedented level. So now our lives are completely different because of the principle. All of this is a result of a few principles, products that work, and a compensation plan that's very generous. And it's leverage and passive and residual. And I'm just going to continue to focus on what I'm doing. What happened for me, I want that for everybody else. They don't have to join my business, but I know that they want to be happier. They want to feel better. They want to have better brain chemistry, all the above. And so just impacting people's lives in that way, I'm just going to keep doing that. And I know so many of you are as well. So just get back with the person that got you here. There's so many ways to get started. Our company is so filled with integrity. We've won so many awards, the Stevie Awards. Our company has received a congressional award for its impact on human health. I don't know any nutritional company that's ever received a congressional award from Congress. That's amazing. A lot of people don't know that. Even people in Isagenesis, they don't know that. So the value pack is like that big savings pack. I mean, I use all these products. I order all these products that you see right here. And when somebody gets started, they really give you a great deal. They waive the membership. They're giving you a blender. I mean, how cool is that? It's a very cool blender. I had to buy one. That's free in that pack. And, it's just a great deal. Everything that I talked about is in here and more. Or you can buy products individually. I like, just getting people started on Isagenesis and get their, the foundation of their health, their DNA going in the right direction. So however you want to get started, get back with the person that got you here and they'll help you find the solutions that are going to work best for you. So at that, I'm going to stop the recording.